Can you think of any great quotes that you just take, that you don't challenge, that you don't dig beneath the surface? Welcome to our little series on being mindfully or mentally fit, an absolute prerequisite in order for us to navigate today's world. Testing 1, 2. Here's one of the quotes that is often asserted, not argued. Think of those beautiful words. Sometimes we assert things, but we don't argue. For example, winners never quit. Think about it for a moment. Is that always good advice? Winners never quit. Matthew McConaughey, in his book Green Lights, shares this line. He says, persist, pivot, or quit. They're always up to us. What I like about that line is he's suddenly gone from always persist to giving us two other options. Now, persist or grit is without a doubt something that winners, achievers have. They know how to persist and push through hard times. But do you always persist? And when do you persist? Well, a couple of areas for me when I know I need to persist would be when what I'm doing is just so true to who I am as a person. It's the person I want to be. It speaks into my values. It speaks into a sense of purpose and vision. And when I'm doing something that's aligned with that, probably persist is something I need to do. Perhaps I also need to persist if I've got a pattern of quitting. So I might look at somebody who's quit and say, no, you need to persist. Or perhaps I need to persist when the reason I want to quit is because of my own limiting beliefs of I can't do this. And then I might need to dig within and say, push through, persist. But those would be some reasons where winners never quit would probably be a good quote. It reminds me of Chris Gardner in The Pursuit of Happiness, who just refused to give up and did the most extraordinary things to be able to look after his son. Their persist was really good. But McConaughey gives us in this other one, pivot. And Will Smith has got this great quote which speaks to pivot as well. He says, a change is scary, but impermanence is the only thing we can really rely on. He carries on and he says, if we are unwilling or unable to pivot and adapt to the fluctuating tides of life, we won't enjoy being here. So pivot is about the world changing. Pivot is about circumstances, environment becoming different, which now necessitates that I need to adjust the goal or adjust the method or adjust the focus. I'm still doing it, but I'm doing it differently. Would be pivot. So sometimes I need to pivot as well when what I'm doing is too closely related to what everybody else is doing. So there are two ways to succeed. One is to do what everybody else is doing, but do it better, which means you're probably just going to have to work really, really hard. And the other way to succeed is to do what nobody else is doing. In other words, differentiate yourself. And so pivot is sometimes done when I see that I'm too similar to everybody else. And then we get quit. Now let's think about it for a moment. Quit almost seems like a bad word. But sometimes quit is the best thing that we can do. For example, if what I'm doing is not speaking to my values, is not speaking to my purpose, then this becomes a definite option. Or quit might be what I do when the world has changed so significantly that the assumptions on which I launched whatever I'm doing has changed. Or quit might be the thing that I do when I know that what I'm doing cannot succeed. Sometimes we need to start to realize that. Susan David gives the brilliant example in her book, Emotional Agility, when she says Lyndon Johnson knew that America couldn't win the Vietnam War. But he persisted in fighting the war because he didn't want to be the first guy to lose a war. I don't know about you, but that's bad reason for carrying on. So, winners never quit. Yes, sometimes. But emotional, mindful fitness challenges things like that. And again, it takes us back to context. What is the context? What's going on around? What are the subtleties that determine whether we carry on or whether we pivot, or whether we stop. When I brought this topic up to some people, I get an immediate reaction. But let's just remember, is it possible that what we're doing is we asserting something, but not necessarily arguing its validity? What is something today that you just need to challenge a little bit? That you need to move into the place of argument rather than assertiveness. When we do, we move into the places of being mindfully, mentally fit.